Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the July teacher reading by the Muse Writers Center. I'm Sierra Foltz. I'm going to be hosting today's reading. I'm currently a development intern at the Muse, and I've been working with the Muse Writers Center since mid-May. Today, we're going to be able to hear from and celebrate the writing of 4 of our talented Muse teachers: Suzanne Rhodes, Patrick Dacey, Remy Smith, and Seneca Lofton. So we're going to start with Suzanne Rhodes, who taught poetry at the Muse for 5 years before moving out of state. Now in Fayetteville, Arkansas, she teaches poetry workshops to high schoolers and adults and went virtual like everyone else when the pandemic struck. Suzanne publishes her poems regularly in journals and anthologies such as Image, Christian Century, Slant, Alaska Quarterly Review, and many others. Her poetry books include 2 chapbooks, Hungry Foxes and Weather of the House, and a full-length collection, What a Light Thing, This Stone. Her second full collection, Flying Yellow, will be published by Paraclet Press in the spring of 2021. Welcome, Suzanne. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Sierra, for that nice introduction. It's Paraclet Press, by the way, but thank you very much. And I want to thank the Muse staff for hosting this, for being so supportive of all of us who write and teach. It's just lovely to be able to come back to the Muse. I'm very unhappy that we are suffering under this pandemic, but one advantage is that we can reconnect this way. So again, I thank you. And everybody who's come, thank you for being in this live stream. I hope you're nice and cool. It's very hot here in Northwest Arkansas, and I think it's broiling in Norfolk from what I understand. Yes, I taught for 5 years at the Muse, as Sierra said, and now I'm doing a workshop on revision, and Sierra's one of the great students in the workshop. And I want to dedicate my reading to my students. They're all wonderful poets and wonderful people. The poems that many of my poems are rooted in place. And the first poem I'm going to read is when I was living in the Tidewater area by the beautiful watery landscapes of that part of the world. And this is called There is the Lake and There is the Street. We left the street for the endless green lens of water. The only signposts were cypress trees with fluted dresses who danced when our heads were turned, the way trees in love dance everywhere, who led us to longer and farther reaches of silence, past the turtle's head, the egret's curve, our paddles resting across our laps as villages of knobs drifted by on their way to the sun's slow commerce. Past the water strider's elegant script and our need for words, for memory. We held it the whole afternoon, that beautiful face, then let it slip into the water. The next poem, thank you, was inspired by a visit to Pea Island Wildlife Refuge in North Carolina on a very gray day, and it's called Gray Distances. The loneliness of their long whistles, the sound full of their whiteness. Even in community, they are lonely. Miles of loneliness across the rain-beaten water as they have come to overwinter, to fly the gray distances from there to here, to be the wings of longing, to plumb the sky and see, landing and leaving like arrows from the bow of God, the air crying for love of swans. Excuse me. To plumb the sky and see. My husband just jumped in to this reading. The next poem I'm going to read is a little bit about a journey that I had with a very unfriendly entity called cancer Some of you out there, I'm sure, have gone through it. And I'd like to dedicate this poem to Father Nigel. And it's called Priest in the Treatment Room. Drowsed with potions, we had our fun as the shrill signals waned, and we slipped deeper into our plush recliners, glad to be sleeping with disease at bay, to have thoughts teased from us, drip by drip, the faces of son or sister dim, despite the huge overbright room that out of nowhere welcomed a priest riding in a scooter, a black-clad Jesus, but one laboring to breathe as he landed at someone's chair and blessed her bags hung from hooks. 3 bags of poison, blessed a head bent and scared against his hand, but oh, you knew he knew what it's like to be pitted against those stakes, with all of us hoping on the skids. Well, I'm 5 years out, so there's much to be thankful for. And this poem is called Cutting Hair, and I wrote it after I had finished treatment, I think. Cutting hair. On the day to cut your hair, the sun has shaken its shaggy mane of light over the near ocean, over the trees behind our house after a night of hunting, after birds have refilled the trees and death has slipped into the deep woods, its memory scant as a snail's thread on the patio. I wrap you in a cape and snug it with a clip. How careful I must be, rounding your good ear with scissors, the ear my tongue loves to kiss, apricot sweet, and loves too the bad ear and its ghosts. I thread your hair with a comb to gauge length, silver in my loom. I cut your hair in rhythm, remembering the day you shaved what was left of mine, how we walked on a trail through the marsh, through tufts of fog, and I was slow as soup of low tide, slow against your arm, remembering what it was like not to lean, to be bright in my bones. I see light differently now, painting the branches behind our house, early, before you're awake. It's more the gold of afterlife, I think, a glimpse before bodies take on all that death. Sierra, you're a dear. This is called Cold War Nerves. I grew up in Arlington, Virginia. And it's a prose poem, so it's one big block of print. I don't know if you can see it or not, but anyway, it's a block. Mrs. Mirza, our Christian babysitter from Lithuania, lived on the corner of 9th and Livingston and was what you'd call ample-bosomed. Cliches have their uses, and ample bosom was needed to quell the anxiety of a child growing up in the Cold War, seeking the comfort of a grandmother figure, which is why I would walk to her house and soak up the strangeness of cabbage smells and her thick accent, thick like the slices of pumpernickel bread on her kitchen table where we'd sit and eat, talking like old friends. Her house was one of hundreds in Dominion Hills, all 2-story brick built after the war with variations only in the shutters. Ours were green and belonged to Mr. Morse, the landlord, who had no idea of what went on in his house until the night he came for dinner and watched the puppet show my sisters and I put on for entertainment. With bickering so authentic, our parents went white in the face, even whiter than they were. And that's another thing about Dominion Hills. It's where white flight landed from DC, and why, seeing the demographics, George Lincoln Rockwell and his stormtroopers set up headquarters right across the highway in a farmhouse and went up to Crown Heights to open their terrifying trench coats and show their screaming twisted crosses to a crowd of Jews, so you can see why everyone was always on edge, but none more than my stepfather, who calmed himself each night with tequila and jazz because of all the secrets thumping inside his head, property of the CIA. I guess they owned us too, because try as we might to escape, and my mother left 3 times, they always found us and returned us to our house on 9th Street North. In 6th grade, walking home from school with talk about the Cuban Missile Crisis ringing in my ears. And after I'd only just knelt behind Andrew Timotheo with my hands behind my head and the stench of his shoes in my face as we performed our drill, I knew the world was coming to an end. If it weren't for Mrs. Mirza sharing bread with me under the peace of her sing-song blessing, I might have turned out wilder than I was starting to become, maybe doomed. Who knows what pull of grace abides in a person who escaped a homeland of millions murdered but never spoke of it, not even when I asked who the faded faces were in the photos on her mantle, just Papa and Motor and little girl is me. Eventually, the era calmed down and the next genocide hadn't yet happened. But I searched out the story of Mrs. Mirza's people and how their bodies were stacked in frozen camps and cattle cars in the name of war's cliches. Blood and honor, death or freedom, peace to the world. And the last piece I'm going to read is based on a memory of my mother and I harmonizing, and it's called A Theme Perhaps for the Plague. It's the memory of your harmonies and the grim house lifting in your ebullience that I'm holding against this deadly fugue, the flight from everything and nothing we the world have known. I would be singing somewhere in the house and you'd come streaming into the song, your strong alto current bearing my higher notes into joy that was, I see now, a resistance against the rage smoldering within those walls as you found the balancing notes from an inward spring. How good to think of that now as I stir soup inside my home, holding strong from what's outside. Thanks.
Thank you, Suzanne, for that beautiful poetry. Next, we will hear from Patrick Dacey, who is the author of the story collection We've Already Gone This Far and the novel The Outer Cape. His work has appeared on NPR's Selected Shorts and in the Paris Review, Zoetrope, All Story, and Guernica, among other publications. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey, Sierra. And nice to meet all of you. And I kind of been debating what to read all the way up until 4 o'clock. So, but I'm going to give this one a try because it's one sentence. And if I get embarrassed, I can just go away and not have to talk to anybody afterwards. And this is, this is the novel, short story collection. You can get them at your local bookstore. And this story is called Ballad. And like I said, it's one sentence. I read it once for students. We'll see how it goes. All right. Okay, Ballad. Okay, she's gone. Let's get set up. Amp, chord, guitar. Now this is romantic. This is a gift. D, C, G, yep. Way out of tune. Needs a good tuning. Can't remember how to tune. Just listen. Listen. It all makes sense if you just listen. That's what Miles Davis once said, I think. Maybe it was Mingus. Turn the keys, thumb the E and A, and okay, we're in tune. Music first, then lyrics, a mix of dark and light, of high and low. Nothing too dark, nothing too light. It's her birthday. She doesn't want a slit your wrist song, and she doesn't want some loopy gumball sing-along. A ballad, of course, ballad in D. Too light, ballad in E minor. Too dark, ballad in C. C to F to D, C to F to G. Something's missing. C to F to A minor to G. That's it. That makes sense. There's a balance there. Okay. C to F to A minor to G for a while, and squawking. Why are you upset, buddy? Why are you hiccuping now? And that cute as hell laugh, can't miss that laugh. Got to take a picture. If I time it right through, you never do it when I got the phone pointed at your guitar, rest, camera, phone, on hiccup, and you're looking at me like I'm some creature from Mars, wide-eyed, scared shitless, considering the size of your world for the past 10 minutes, little stuffed monkeys and parrots and lizards, and then this giant indigenous freak from across the river comes stomping through the bush into your perfectly unreal world, wanting to strip it bare, take you away, turn it into a resort, which, think about it, little buddy. Think about living your first couple years in a beautiful resort. No bugs or scary animals, just people like your mother. all there to serve you while you relax under an umbrella with the sun on your little toes. Doesn't that sound nice? Sound like something you could appreciate later on in life? If, say, you were to make a bunch of money and then lose a bunch of money at the point your future wife is 5 months pregnant. Surprise. And already has you in a convertible crib on credit without considering the possibility that maybe we won't have the money, that we'll never have the kind of money we had then. And we moved all the studio equipment into the garage where mommy says it should be anyway, considering I haven't recorded a thing since we moved back to our hometown from LA 15 years ago. And what was that? Just a little number called I Do and I Don't. Just a song that put her in the cream-colored Mercedes she rides into Boston to have lunch with Karen and Odessa and Hillary like they're the goddamn New England version of Sex and the City. Like they're impressed by my 15-year-old Benz and says I have to take the train in from Haverhill for Christ's sake. Well, at least you have a car and you're not some poor Mexican walking to work along Route 1. Okay, no sad time daddy talk. I get it. Come here, get rid of those hiccups. Okay, I didn't mean to bring you down. Let's go out to the living room and you can help with mommy's birthday present there. You, go, buckle. Buckle you into your little rocking chair. And here's your giraffe, Sophie, and your Winkle. And let's clean the drool off your lip, okay? Ready? No, don't squeeze Sophie. Sophie doesn't have the right voice for this kind of song. She's more a mezzo-soprano. Not what we're looking for here. Okay, squeeze Sophie. We'll work around her. Not like I haven't had to deal with my share of over-enthusiastic background vocalists. Maybe I can cut her out of the master tape. And that cough and that sneeze. And don't cry, pal. Nothing to cry about. I'm sure Sophie's a good vocalist, or maybe you're just not interested in writing a song. But if I could afford a present for mommy, I'd get one. Though it wouldn't even be a present, more like a debt. And she'd see it in the checking account, probably return it, claim it's too extravagant, just some earrings or a bracelet, I don't know, something to make her feel pretty. But what's more important, she'd say, me looking pretty or some diapers for the boy? Yeah, no brainer, diapers, but every once in a while, something nice, maybe. And for the life of me, I can't imagine what we'd do if I didn't lift your vitamins and formula and those stupid plastic toys. Well, not lift, just check them out at the Stop and Shop, claim confusion with the machine, tell her I like her green eyes and her hemp necklace, but $40 for formula, organic formula, because it has to be organic, or else what? You might end up like, okay, let's sort of cradle you, take off the guitar strap. Okay, get this underneath your butt and put your arms up here on the side and rest your chin there in the curve. How's that? Better? Feel better? Feel sleepy? All right, sleepy is good. This is going to be sort of a sleepy song anyway. Now, what was that chord progression? G to no C to F to A minor, right? Then G, okay. C, 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 C. Fucking A, buddy, you almost fell out of the strap. Don't make that face. I know that face. All right, okay, look at me. Look at daddy. It's smiley time, right? Isn't it smiley time? Do you even know what the hell smiley time means? It doesn't mean anything. That's right. That's right. Keep smiling for smiley time, because smiley time is a world that only exists in my mind. And you won't ever remember that you used to love smiley time until you have a baby. And then you'll probably call it something different, some inane phrase that gets stuck in your head and you're walking around thinking about a world where people have smiley time at some point during the day, standing still wherever we are, smiling at each other, and not with some condescending coffee house, how you doing smile, but a real genuine smile that can crush your heart the way it does when you see true happiness on a person's face, like when they're on a roller coaster or sledding down a hill. Whatever it is that makes them forget about themselves for a few minutes. Maybe not a good idea to have you resting your head on the wood. So back in the rocker, okay? Now let's get to work. Take mommy into the past, because that's what a good song does. Takes you back in time, sets you down next to old friends and lovers. Well, hopefully not her old lovers, especially not that Australian dude. The two of them out in this wild looking at kangaroos, taking peyote. Can hear that stupid accent in my head. Picture Greg Norman, mommy's face in his lap while he says, oi, oi, oi. But what are you going to do? That's the risk you take with a good song. A good song brings you back in time. A great song brings you to a place you've never been. And you feel good being there. Jesus, you little bugger. You were so relaxed there during smiley time, you went ahead and dropped a load. Right as I was about to say how it has something to do with our past and present and future and how they can work so perfectly together. If you never think about time at all, if you erase the concept of time from your being and just be okay, that's right. Here we go. Put the guitar down gently, diaper wipes, a bunch of wipes, and all right, it's up your back. Jesus, how long has it been since you took a dump? Your mother never keeps me in the loop on your dump cycle. We need a dump calendar or an eraser board. Guess we'll have to get you in the tub. I've gotten a lot of thinking done in the tub over the years, of course. A lot of that thinking got lost once I got out of the tub because I never remembered to bring a pen and pad into the bathroom with me. So let's clean you up and get a pen and pad and run the water and start thinking lyrics for mommy's song, all right? Listen to the sound of the water. Listen to everything around you. That's music. Everything's music. Have to make sure it's not too hot and you'll get that pumpkin head screaming like a cat caught on fire. All right, me first. Got you up. Jesus, I hate the tub. I look like a washed up seal. What a body. No wonder mommy turns off the lights. 42 years old, want to risk another. Well, not a mistake. You're not a mistake, but well, we weren't planning on, doesn't matter. You're here, you're beautiful. You ready for the tub? Ready for the water? Okay, here we go. Legs first. Yeah, feels good, doesn't it? Now your back and your arms. Don't worry, I got your head. I won't let you go under. We'll just float. We'll just float you around. Okay, it's warm, isn't it? You're gonna love the ocean. Maybe you'll be a surfer, or maybe you'll build sailboats, or maybe you'll be one of those guys who fishes in the summer and smokes dope in the winter and never really minds what happens around him because he's generally satisfied with his life and doesn't expect too much and never gets his hopes up and hasn't a clue why everyone's always arguing about what's fair and what isn't. Come on, pal, not in the tub. Well, at least it's clear. Means you're healthy and you're smiling because you think you got away with something. Well, okay, we should get out of the tub. Not much thinking done after all, but it'll come to us. I mean, you can't stop yourself from thinking. It's impossible. Even wrapping you up in the towel and the tag says made in China. And where in China? It's so damn big, though you have to think some factory where they're pumping out towel after towel. All day it's towels or it's clocks or it's Elvis Presley keychains, whole factories producing Elvis crap. And not one of those kids probably knows who Elvis is or was or how if he didn't stop at that little recording studio in Memphis, or if he didn't shake his hips on the Ed Sullivan show, or die on the toilet, or have this myth about him still being alive, and all these wackos visiting Graceland like it's some kind of church, then none of the Chinese kids would even be working the Elvis factory. And it might be the only factory in their town. So without Elvis, they might have lived a happier life, working a farm or fishing, doing something outdoors where the air is clean and no one's breathing down your neck about printing 1,000 of those Jailhouse Rock t-shirts by noon. Your skin's so soft too, soft maybe, hasn't had to take a blow yet, except that time you tumbled out of your little rocker, but you knew to keep rolling and finally pressed up against the TV stand. What's this spot on your belly? Spider bite? Do we have spiders? Fuck, I hope not. Does it hurt when I press? No? Good, that's good. Probably bitten a few days ago. Spiders crawling all over the house. Can't see them. Maybe they hide until night, come out in packs, crawl into our bed, down our throats. That's why mommy's coughing at night, coughing on spider legs. And what if they're pregnant? What if they're delivering baby spiders inside us? Oh God, okay, let's zap those spiders out of our minds. Okay, zap, no more spiders. Get the diaper on, your onesie, your little sweats. And how about one of these sweatshirts? A little chilly in here, right? Can't turn the heat up past 64, heat's expensive. If we hug each other all day, we wouldn't need heat at all. Zip you up, looks like you're ready to get back to work. Are you ready to get back to work? Good little smile, stick your tongue out, make the fart sound. All right, buddy, ballad in C for your mother. Haven't written a song, a real song, since I don't know when. Tried to get the band back together, but Tamrod runs some consulting firm and Fido works a farm in Montana. And Caesar's been cleaning toilets at Logan, guessing drugs brought him there, or maybe he's off the drugs and that's why he's cleaning toilets. Maybe he'll be ready to join up again in a year. You only really need 2 founding members. Who am I kidding? You won't ever know your father, the rock star. You'll probably see me as some old know-nothing like I saw my father until I got older and got interested in what his life was like before he started wheezing and coughing all the time and we needed to hook him up to an oxygen tank. Because all I knew of him was that he was a finished carpenter. He talked about staircases and mantles and window trim, whatever. But later he told me how he dropped out of high school and flew to Madrid and from there trekked through Western and Eastern Europe and to Egypt and down to South Africa and over to Chile, up through South America, Panama, Guatemala, Mexico. Basically traveled the world except Asia, said he wished he could get to Asia. And I asked him why there were no photographs from his travels. And he said, because it's all in my mind. It's for me, not for anyone else. And I came to respect my father more than I ever had before. And then, well, he died before he got a chance to see you or even know you were coming. Said how he wished he had a grandchild. All the men in our family since the dawn of time failing like it's a birthright to dream big and touch greatness and then crash hard. I'm not sure your grandfather ever even went to the places he claimed to visit. Maybe he was dreaming up a more adventurous past for himself. Maybe I should too. Who am I? Who was I? Who should I have been for you going to that dark place again? Going to that dark place again. Try to stay away from the dark if you can. So what was the point of right? Well, you'll see the videos of me when I had long hair and purple suits, and you'll think, where's that guy? He was famous, he was weird, he was cool. But things change, buddy. People change, and you're in my world now. And maybe I dream of getting the band back, dream of me and Caesar at the Paradise, but I know that's not going to happen. Too many mistakes. Band's got a bad name. I got a bad name. Put down the booze and coke, put all that dough in a vegetarian restaurant called Roots, which your mother said was a terrible name. And I went with it despite her thinking, if it stuck with me, then it'd stick with others. But it wasn't the name. No one was willing to pay $14.95 for a plate of raw vegetables. And even after selling the house and most of my old guitars and becoming but becoming an actual laughingstock on the local news during a Where Are They Now segment, claiming to have a connection with the spiritual world, which I don't, but I thought it might drum up some interest in my music again. And maybe kids will look up your last name, find out who your father was, make fun of how I used to look, the music I played. But you take out the synthesizers, and you have some pretty lovely. Anyway, it won't matter, shouldn't matter, because unlike their fathers, and very much like my own father, I went for it, and I did it. And no one can take that away from me, just like they can't take it away from you. And I know sometimes I talk about your mother, but she's been with me through it all, rich and poor, and she deserves some slack, deserves a break. And she's a good mother to you and a good woman. And she's still the only girl I know knows how to give a decent foot massage. And maybe that sounds like it's not a lot, but trust me, it's hard to meet a woman you can love all your life. And when you arrived, it seemed to make us love each other even more. And I guess that's the point, why it's so hard to write a song. I don't have any songs left. Maybe you were my last song, and maybe all your mother wants is a deep kiss and a warm bath and to be here with us, a family, our own little world just beginning. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Patrick. That was like a deep dive into dad's psyche.
Yeah.
All right, next we'll hear from Remy, who is also a development intern at the Muse. She helps to create resources for the Muse teachers and students. She's one of our go-to copywriters for social media posts and internal documentation, and assists with the development of long-term strategy for the organization and considers ways in which the Muse can connect the writing community in Hampton Roads to the larger literary world. Remy will leave Virginia briefly to attend Columbia in the fall to pursue an MFA in fiction. Before interning at the Muse, she worked as a journalist.
Thank you so much, Sierra. So I'm going to read from a book that may remain in a drawer forever, but I recently finished it, and this is the first chapter. I sat on a wooden chair in the white reception area of the dean's office, waiting for the detective. 4 crucifixes lined the wall, all made of mahogany. Jesus' expression was uniform across the renditions, dismayed, though his body position changed across the tributes. His hand nailed in the middle palm in some, the knuckles in others. The legs more muscular in one version, thin in the next. The carpet was stained, and I kicked a thread that was loose. The secretary was out, so no one told me to stop. When, after 3 kicks, it didn't unspool, I reached down and tugged until it came undone and revealed white plastic. The door opened. I looked up. Tess. She had makeup on. Her beauty was effortless, so when she put in the slightest effort, the impact was enormous, like cooked meat, cut stone, wildflowers tied with ribbon. Tess tucked a strand of dark curled hair behind her ear. She numbed me. Looking at her, I felt soothed. The new fortification between me and my world crumbled. She leaned against the receptionist's desk and then sat on it. The detective closed the door to the room. I was next. Don't worry, she said. She winked. She swung her legs from left to right. They just want to make sure that we did nothing wrong, which we didn't. I know, I said. Her skin shined from coconut lotion. She crossed one of her legs over the other. The door opened. The detective, a woman with dark eyes and glasses, stood at the entryway to the principal's office. Tess hopped off the desk with playfulness. Girl power, she whispered in my ear, and then skipped away into the hall. The rush of girls on their way to the next class folded her into anonymity, cold water into a glass. Alice, the detective said with a nod, and then retreated into the dark space. She began the interview professionally. She smiled at me. She was a woman, after all, and wanted to be liked. Thank you, she said, for taking the time to meet with me. I know it's the middle of the day. Of course, I said. After lunch, I had a test on U.S. history. A list of presidents' names went through my head. Eisenhower, Roosevelt, Hoover. She asked me what I did for fun, if I liked my school, what I wanted to do after graduation. Then she narrowed her focus. She asked me what I made of the wave of boys' deaths in the area. Boys were dying in all sorts of ways. Handsome young ones from different high schools. Some died with apparent thoughtlessness, others more intentionally. They drank too much, ran into traffic, swallowed bottles of pills. I told her that I wasn't sure, that I wondered what was happening, that it seemed like there was sickness weaving its way into every suburb, every boy's body. Then she asked about Tess and Charlotte, how we met each other, what I liked about hanging out with them, why they were my best friends. I explained how close we were, us three, a trinity. The conversation after 20 shifted enough in tone for me to care about it. Her veneer cracked. I saw the detective for what she was, how she was out to get me, out to get us. My loyalty, a reflex, swung like a leg after a clinical tap on the knee. Is there any reason why you're concerned about Tess? What's she like? What do you mean? Like, she mimicked the tick of my Valley Girl accent. Were you concerned about her interacting with Luke? No, I said. Tess talks to everyone. I cushioned my lie with truth. What do you think about this? She slapped a stack of paper in front of me. Tess's conversations with him, all of them. Just do it. You know what you need to do, from her. I can't, from him. I believe in you. It will be fast and then it's over. Don't be afraid, from her. I'm not afraid, from him. Tess claims that this references asking you to be his girlfriend. It was hard for the detective to say this, to deliver that saccharine teenage line. She bristled. Her line of upper lip hair moved. My insides twisted. My heart hit the wall of my chest fast like a hummingbird's skull. Every inch of me hummed with recognition. All of my anxieties about the two of them speaking resolved themselves into shape, into something I could hold. There it was, all of it. I spent the last week trying to find it, dug feebly like a kid trying to plant a seed. And it was there, her, she was it, Tess, the schoolgirl. That makes sense, I said. Tess didn't even ask me to play along. That's one thing I hate, that she knew I would. I looked up at the fan and watched it move. I find it hard to believe, she said. You both saw each other for months. Isn't it a natural conversation to have early on? You're how old again? 17. Exactly. So you're trying to tell me that the two of you dated for months, but this conversation wasn't brought up until November? It was funny, because Luke and I never did have that conversation, or anything close to it. We were just together. It was simple. We're both shy, I said. Plus, maybe things have changed since you were young. The detective adjusted her skirt. How would you describe Tess? Kind, smart, nice, I said. What would you say about her temperament? Not much to say. I see. She flipped to a new page on the yellow legal pad. She clicked her pen and tapped the toe of her black shoe. Did you notice anything strange about Luke's behavior before this happened? No, I said. I knew he was sad. He told me that he was sad, I admitted. Why didn't you tell an adult? His mom, a counselor? I don't know. I wanted to do the right thing. He told me in secret. What do you mean? I didn't feel like I had the right to tell. Weren't you worried? I guess. How to explain to her that I couldn't have imagined it, that we were young, always playing at life rather than living it. You realize that your secrecy might have killed him, she said. She put a sheet of paper into a manila folder, as if through the movement she could restore professionalism that required objectivity. She said that was enough for today. You Arizona girls, she paused. Maybe it's because I'm from California, but there's something different about all of you. What do you mean? I mistook her derision for a compliment. Only Arizona could have made you, she said. She pointed to the door.
Thank you so much, Remy. I hope that doesn't live in a drawer forever. All right, our last reader of the evening is Seneca Lofton, who is a poet, recording artist, educator, and a founding member of the hip-hop group Black Lion Insurgents. Lofton has recorded more than 150 CDs, albums, CD singles, and mixtapes of poetry. His poems have been published in Experience Reality magazine, Quay, a journal of the arts, Upstreet, a literary magazine, and Blindsided magazine. Lofton is also the president of Guerrilla Ignition LLC, an independent recording, publishing, and film company. He teaches world literature, British literature, and composition while touring the country, performing at literary festivals, musical festivals, poetry readings, open mics, concert, high schools, and colleges. Welcome, Seneca.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. That's the long form bio right there. I think I've condensed that since since a few years ago. But yeah, I appreciate the Muse for allowing us this platform, and Sean, everybody, and everybody that's read this afternoon has definitely inspired me. So after I'm done here, I'm gonna try to get into my own journal and start, getting some ideas out. So what I want to read to you all this afternoon, I have a little book that me and my friend Donnell McGee just published, came out July 4th. It's called American Reverie. It's a slender volume, but it took us 3 years to write this particular book because, I live here in Virginia. Donnell lives in Turlock, California. And so this started probably around 2017. 2015, I attended the African American Visiting Writers Series at Mission College, which I think is in Santa Clara, California. Donnell is an educator there. And since then, he was asking we should do a collaboration piece. And so around 2017 was when we first started really putting the poems together. And we just kind of worked through a Google document. He will update the manuscript, and I would go in and read the poems, close it out, think about what I want to write, and go back and write the poems that I'm responding with. So it's kind of like it was a call and response for 3 years. All right, and this book just came out on July 4th. So I want to read a few poems, just to kind of give you a feel as to how we were working this particular manuscript. This first poem, the first poem in the book is called I Have a Lot to Learn. It's by Donnell McGee. Father dear, Lord, show me the journey of the Sephardic Jew, Spain to Greece to Los Angeles. Guide me in, know I am of two ideals. Mother dear, Lord, cover me with optimism of my people. Smiles, frowns, blue-green sea, cotton-white fields. Let me turn to Baldwin, Clifton, Langston. Guide me, Mother dear, Lord, Father dear, Lord, I have a lot to learn. That's simply called I Have a Lot to Learn. Now, after reading that, this was my response. It's simply called Dreamer. Heavy, like a ton of dreams resting in a hostile environment, like lessons that played out in the streets of Detroit, Chicago, New York City. They didn't pull weapons for peace, challenge masculinity. One morning, my father handed me a revolver. The Mississippi heat crawled into the single-family brick home like an ancestor stopping by to see what was on the stove or to deliver the good news. Its old handle and tarnished chrome told stories of self-defense, liberation, country life for blues people. It's for the animals, he said. We were all social creatures in states of mourning, living, praying, searching for a righteous place to call home. And a few weeks later, Donnell wrote a poem called, called Brother Dead. You sat there with your head stuck in pride, the choke, murder done, the trembling of my hands, my wife long gone, anxiety making work for me, shadow blurred brother dead. Never the perfect one, let go, Daniel Pentelio. And through this call and response we had for 3 years, it was never really a time limit on when you had to respond. So Donnell could write one poem, and the next week I could write 2 or 3. All right, Donnell might respond a month later. All right, I might respond 24 hours later or 24 days later. So there wasn't really a time limit as to when you had to respond, just that you had to respond. And anytime we responded to each other, we sent a text message. Hey, I updated the manuscript yesterday. Can you take a look at those poems? And that's all I needed, and that's all he needed to go on. And so that's how we worked this manuscript for the last 3 years. This poem is called Singer of American Odyssey. I sing as the threat level rises. Low, guarded, elevated, high, severe. I hear the sirens, sense the unique hospitality, the violence roars for blocks. I fold into self, a jungle cat, upright, fingers on the pulse of concrete landscapes. I'm not fearful of traffic, only the confinement of language. I brew resistance in a cast iron pot. I honor Trayvon Martin. I celebrate the fallen. I sing as a threat level forces its way onto the skin. I sing as a threat level rises. And Donnell responded with, do what you gotta do. Words to mother. Mother, mother, where you at? You ain't nowhere near here. They told me you like Nina singing, do what you gotta do, moving still in the house, waiting for the batter ram, knocked down of the crack holding you. Fade to black with whiffs into cranium. It's all right because you taught me to love the rift of Jimmy. It's all right because Jimmy takes body to places like Villanova Junction. And I'm loving Jimmy when your love is in the pipe. Smoke fading beautifully into your scars. Then I respond with a poem called Sanctuary. On this road, Kerouac's Mexico City Blues on my lap. A journal smolders, solemnly burns, metallic sounds, shell game, ringing like freedom. Everything and nothing. God particles surface like drums from silence. My grandfather's hostility stands like a monument in the back of my mind. Uproot their statues, rip them from concrete, crumble their sensational stories, and cast love affairs with history to hungry winds. I prefer this razor-sharp music, an expansive tempo. Wisdom is etched on skin. This next poem, excuse me. So this next poem is called Crenshaw Set Ablaze. Me and Donnell both have roots in California. Him more so Los Angeles into Northern California. I grew up in Long Beach, went to high school in San Diego. So that's where my roots lie. So this poem simply is called Crenshaw Set Ablaze. Get them weights, metal plates off my chest. No spotter though. I come from concrete, hands wedged between black thighs. I come from walks at dusk, here along Crenshaw where tracks stretch long on arms of some folks on my block. But they stand for me, greeting me with chiseled torso, body, a canvas of colors, tatted for life. Like one Crip dead, two Crips dead, one blood shots, one blood confined to a wheelchair. As I watch the bullet exit his head from the inside, and here comes the copter. Chop, 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 chop. Spotlight on him. One Crip locked up, one blood dead. Rewind to where one young brother alive, two young brothers alive, three young brothers alive, four young brothers unconfined. This is how you get out. Move to flows, new, all slick. Move with books, breaking types, breaking norms of what it means to be Black, breaking them side glances, voices saying, what you think you white? And you see new paths to set ablaze. But I'd burn it all if it meant saving one blood, one Crip. My wife struggled with breast cancer about 2 years ago, and it was definitely a traumatic time, and I was learning a lot very quickly. And I think anybody who's ever been through anything like that, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about medical jargon and tests and chemotherapy. You're getting this full throttle education on how cancer affects millions of people every year, and how chemotherapy affects people every year, which I learned later on. But my wife developed. They basically said she had I think it was like 1 inch, 1 or 1.5 inch. It wasn't much. It wasn't much of a spot they had to get rid of. But of course they put her on the chemotherapy. and they put a Metaport in her shoulder, right above her shoulder and her chest, that delivered the medicine. So after one treatment, the after effects of one treatment, 7 days later, I had to call the ambulance because she had deteriorated so much and so fast that she couldn't sit up, she couldn't feed herself, she couldn't get to the bathroom, and I sensed something was, very, very wrong. So I just called the ambulance. I stay across the street from Chesapeake Regional here in Chesapeake, VA, and so they came over quickly. They brought her in, and about 24 hours later, the doctor came in and said, "Listen, I'm glad you brought her in because, if you'd have brought her in 2 days later, she would probably be gone because her body had deteriorated so much that, she couldn't fend off anything." He said, "If you'd have waited till Sunday, you would probably be planning for a funeral." So we're glad and happy that you brought her in today. And today, she's got her wind back, exercise, and her hair's growing back. She's got her wind and everything back. For now, she just deals with a few side effects that I guess a lot of people that I didn't really understand until now. Body aches and all these extra things she's kind of dealing with now. But while in ICU, I was writing a lot of poetry, and so I wrote this one poem simply called "A Monster Called Breast Cancer." A downward spiral. The speed is akin to an uncontrolled plunge into a medical sunken place. We are a blues people. We speak sun words. We didn't ask for this. We didn't ask for this. The Most High is too kind to put his children in a condition, too kind to put his lesser gods in a fight to merely exist with infections, bacteria, incessant beeps in the night. Machines designed to keep the body cool. We are a blues people. We speak sun words. We didn't ask for this. We didn't ask for this. I observe her struggle to breathe. Her cough scares me, but the nurse says this is progress. This is a road to a solution, to health, to wellness. My baby is a fighter. My baby is a dreamer. She's equipped to slay beasts. A monster called breast cancer. And now I can't even look like I wrote a lot of poems about that circumstance, but now I don't even revisit those poems because she doesn't like to revisit anything that even suggests she had cancer, which is very strange. Like random paperwork she sees around. Oh, I don't want to look at that. I'm past that. I'm done with that. Even though I'm a survivor, I'm past that point in my life. I'm trying to rebuild. How much time am I going over time? I only had 10 minutes. Sierra, what am I doing on time?
It's all right. You can keep going.
Okay, I got it. It's like I got my timer here and it's telling me I'm over by 3 minutes or something. Just trying to get through the ones I want to get through. All right, just a couple more. Actually, two more. This poem was written about my daughter. All right, excuse me. 8-year-old, rambunctious, very smart, knows who she is, and knows what she wants, right? The decision maker in the home, right? So she got into a point where teaching her how to ride a bike and things of that nature. And of course, I got to get out a little bit more because, she has to stretch her legs and run and exercise much more. All right, so this poem is called "Baby Girl Needs Me to Park." I rush through traffic to handle the business. Baby girl needs me to park near a park where she can stretch her spirits like little brown girls, like little black angels born on the other side of the moon. I hustle because she depends on my ambitions. A soul brother, an African brother, my toenails have blackened from walking cold American land. I complete the task, avoid the crosshairs. Police officers are dangerous to my health. Baby girl needs me to park near a park. I fly because of love and her mission to live, to run, to breathe. And Donnell responds with this poem, The Other Day. My daughter backed the Prius out of the garage a wave before the rev of the closing. She proud to be driving 16, and I can't remember it all. How the little girl up on my shoulders is now the young lady who writes about the importance of professional athletes using their public platform to speak out about injustice. Even though her English teacher smirked when notified of her topic, "Oh, you are writing about that?" Turlock is not in the most progressive part of California, but the other day, my daughter, Mexican, Peruvian, African-American, and Jewish, backed the Prius out of the garage, a wave before the rev of the closing, her spirit free. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing those pieces with us. Can you say the name of the collection one more time?
This is called American Reverie, all right, and it's available at thetherabooks.com. Thetherabooks.com.
Thank you.
Yep.
And thank you all for joining us today. I think this was a really successful teacher reading, our monthly teacher reading series.